Have you ever successfully stopped a repeat marketing or scam phone call? How did you do it? So I act interested so I can get a real person on the other end and told them, I'm very interested in the product services you all are offering, but unfortunately I'm a bit busy at the moment. Could I have your personal cell phone number so I can connect you later tonight? Double quote. The lady replied, Sir, I don't feel comfortable giving out my personal cell phone number. Double quote. To which I replied, oh, you don't want to be connected by someone you don't know on your personal cell phone? Double quote. She then hung up and never called back. About once or twice a week I would get the Microsoft support phone call. For about 3 weeks. I would hang up on them. After about a month of this, I decided to jack with them. I let them give their line about how my computer is sending them error. Blah. 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 I kept responding with, interesting. Okay. Fascinating. Etc. When they said that they wanted to connect to my computer, I told them that this would be difficult. They asked why. I told them that they called the server room for the Pentagon. I do not think I have ever heard anyone hang up quicker. Just play dumb and eat up their time. They are playing a numbers game and don't want to spend 30 minutes with some good that gives them nothing. In that 30 they would rather get shot down 20 times and maybe find that old lady they can trick. Twitch streamer Kit Boga currently has a personal record of 16 hours on the phone over the past week or so with a single caller and his co-workers. Damn. I had one of the tax scammers on the phone for 3 hours. They called back a few times over the next days just to swear at me. I tried to troll a guy who was clearly calling people to get their bank account information by saying they were giving away money to help college students. He was from India and was dedicated to his job. I tried to piss him off for about 30 minutes but he kept interrupting me and I eventually told him to FCK off and hung up the phone. He kept cutting me off saying but my friend. Double quote. Answer the phone with Ghostbusters what do you want? And get increasingly exasperated when they don't have a legitimate paranormal issue. Helps to loudly snack gum. If I knew Ghostbusters better, I'd probably try this next time a scammer calls my number. This is pretty hilarious. Which brings us to the real transgression. Why don't you know Ghostbusters better? I swear. This is the biggest interdimensional cross rip since the Tunguska blast of 1909. I got a call. Started reeling off this massive script. Finished probably after 2 minutes of solid talking. And I politely sat through the whole thing. I paused and said, sorry? Double quote. She said again and started the whole script again from the start. Another 2 minute solid talk wall later. I said, sorry? Double quote. This time, there was a bit of frustration in her voice. Again and once again did the whole 2 minutes again. Aggressively this time. Sorry? Double quote. Fuck this and the call ended. Reminds me of a big meme in Formula 1 regarding a non-native English speaking journalist that did his best to ask a long, descriptive question to drivers at a press conference. After he spoke for what felt like an eternity, probably 1-2 minutes, you could tell the other press and drivers found his wholesome attempt at a good question humorous. One of the drivers that his inquiry was directed to said, could you repeat the question? Double quote. I used to get a lot of unsolicited calls from a company who could sort my debt. I got a call from them one day when I wasn't doing much at home, so decided to have some fun. I gave a false name, false address, which they couldn't find on their system. I convinced them it was a new build eventually. I then went through my debts meticulously. Had them waiting while I found the paperwork, etc. Some of the debts were for my exchange. And then reverting back because I changed my mind. 30-40 minutes later and I had over accrued 300k debt. And able to pay up to accrued for 000 per month to clear it with them. The woman on the phone got her boss because it was such a big contract. And when the boss lady got on the phone, I told her I made it all up. I kid you not. She told me I was wasting their time. And that I shouldn't do that, then hung up on me. Never heard from them again. Yeah. Got a call from the duct cleaning people. I told them I don't have ducts. I have geese. They just hung up on me and haven't bothered me since. Okay. What is the duct cleaning scam? I get that call sometimes too. Who needs their ducts cleaned? How is that a good scam? Because ducts can clean themselves in a local body of water. I'm sure another scammer will call again since it's just an act that all of them do. But I got a social security scam call. They told me they had found 22 pounds of cocaine in a Toyota Camry with some blood in the front seat because they always say that exact line. I responded, "Oh my god, that's terrible." Double quote. "So are you telling me that this was not you who left the car there?" Double quote. "No, that was me, but I had 30 pounds of cocaine in that car." "Are you telling me that 8 pounds just went missing?" Double quote. So he was very confused and I was accusing him of stealing it. Then he started swearing at me until he hung up. Edit. Holy Jesus, I didn't think this would make me so popular. Thank you for the upvotes and the silver. My friend speaks English, Spanish and Russian. He would just start randomly switching between languages, and each language had a different personality. He would confuse them into total submission. They rarely called back. I worked in a restaurant that was definitely not called J. Alexander's. At said restaurant you got 3 table sections and I had a co-worker that would use a different accent at each table. Table 1 was Australian. Table 2 was German and table 21 was Indian. Once a table got up, the new table got a new accent. It was his mental game to keep the accent straight for the whole shift. Every table. Answer the phone. Connect to an agent. Mute your phone and carry on with what you were doing. They quickly take you off their dialers when you waste their agent's time. I'm mostly the same, but I've stepped it up. Answer. Connect. Mute the same. But when a person picks up and starts speaking, I rapid fire press numbers on my keypad until they hang up. My favorite response to it has been, "Beautiful song, sir. We won't call again." Double quote. They called again. Would receive a specific one 9 times out of 10. Your car warranty is about to expire. Press 1 if you'd like to be connected to a representative. Double quote. So I would oblige. Wait for someone to come on the line and say make, model and year of your vehicle. Which I usually followed up with 2013 Hasbro ATV or 2017 Little Tikes tricycle or something of that nature. I must have become a famous caller because they only called maybe 6 times after I started doing that, and they always started with "oh look who it is." Eventually, it just stopped. I assume it's because they were tired of wasting their time on someone who was wasting their time. I usually reply with "what car are you calling about?" And they'll say "can you confirm the year, make and model?" and I just keep asking "what car are you calling about?" They hang up every time. Sometimes I get snippy petty and say, "well, you're calling me about my car's extended warranty, which means you clearly know what car I own. So you tell me." They hang up, of course. I get a call from a random pharmaceutical company saying that my supply of Viagra is ready for pickup. I told him that I had a complaint regarding the Viagra. I said that I only took half a pill and now only half of my PP was hard. Now my base is hard but the tip was soft and I was pissed. I kept going on this Viagra rant for about a minute or so and then they hang up. Happened twice and my friends are still laughing. Got a call that there was a virus on my computer, told them that was impossible as I throw my computer into the river so the cops couldn't get any evidence on me. Haven't heard from them since. My wife got a call from Microsoft. I acted confused. Like if they are from help desk or what, because it's a work laptop. After a bit told them I work for big tech company and if my laptop is having problems it should be HR calling me. They panicked and hung up. Pretty sure she hasn't gotten another one since. Didn't help that she didn't own a laptop, she only had her company one, and that mine was a Mac. So we literally didn't own a Windows box at the time. Edit. Swapped HR for help desk. Was sleep deprived when I wrote this. Hello. We like to offer you a free trip to Las Vegas. Double quote. Sir, are you aware that you just called the emergency line of a Department of Energy research facility? Double quote. I. Double quote. We need to keep this line clear. You will add us to your do no call list. If I receive another call from your company, I will report this upstairs. Double quote. Click. It helps that I'm not lying. Edit. This gained some traction. I do work at Lab. And part of my job is to answer the site's emergency line, not 911. And direct dispatch emergency units when emergencies do happen, and they do. We have had telemarketers call that line. I have used this technique. And if I absolutely needed to, I could kick this up to my boss and it would wind up on a desk in Washington. If it's an automated call, I redirect it to a computer that reads off the time and weather. That way the scammer's computer might think that someone's on the line and won't hang up right away. I had this problem for a month on a landline before I could figure out how to block it. The guy was harassing me and constantly calling me back just so he can access my computer. It got to the point that he would call back right after I hanged up. I finally looked up how to block a number on a landline in the phone book. Bought a safety whistle. Then blow the whistle in their eardrums before blocking the number. I took a call from the "I hear you've had an accident that wasn't your fault" call that I get about once a week. It's automated at first. But as soon as I said yes, I got put through to someone. I spent 20 minutes explaining how someone reared into my lane and crashed into me and it wasn't my fault. At the end, when they asked me for details of the damage, I explained that they bent the handlebars a bit but the bicycle was mostly okay. They hung up on me and I haven't back from them for about a month. I answer the phone as Detective so and so. Then I ask them who they are and why they called the number in a very stern and cop-like manner. Then I ask them where they are and act like I am giving the information to someone else who is contacting Interpol. I ask a few more questions about their relationship to the number and advise anyone who has not already hung up that they are to stay put and wait for Interpol to arrive for interrogations. Stopped calls to my classroom. Whenever they intro with "this is so and so" on a recorded line. Double quote. I always politely say I do not consent to being recorded or monitored, or something along those lines. It's always fun how flustered they get and not sure of what to do. They usually hang up and don't call back again. I don't even know if they need my consent to record me. But it seems to work. Depends on what state you're in. And what state they're in. If you're in a one party and they aren't, they still need your consent. And vice versa. But usually they prefer to have records of everything. Full stop. Full stop. Just don't tell them you're recording. Or do. To get rid of spam. I always hit the button to speak with a person or get more info. Or sometimes they call with a live person to begin with. I put on my sexy low voice and say, "Hey baby. How you doing?" They usually hang up immediately. If not, my next response to whatever they say is, "That sounds really hot. What are you wearing?" Pretty close to 100% hang up and don't call back. It was a joint effort. I kept getting a call not only from the same company but the same individual. He had a very distinctive speech pattern and was looking for Clarence Miller because the lucky son of a gun had won the lottery. After I, with my very obviously female voice, told him to remove the number, he called a few days later looking for MR. Or MRS. Clarence Miller. Resourceful. My BF answered once as if he was a phone operator and kept asking him ridiculous questions to help direct his call. That went on for about 10 minutes. A coworker answered in Greek once, which I think just confused the guy. No fewer than 3 other people answered just for the sake of saying they had spoken with my own personal scammer. This went on for months. Finally, I was in a meeting and couldn't answer. So Bubbles, as we affectionately named him, called 8 times in a row. Haven't heard from him since. We think he had to prove that the number wouldn't answer before he could actually remove it from his list. Bubbles, if you read this, we all hope you've found happiness. And Clarence Miller. I started calling the number back. The one about the social security number warrant thing. They'd actually answer. So I rotated between being really confused, speaking Arabic, putting the phone up to the TV while Aquanauts played, letting my not yet fully speaking toddler try to talk, singing, saying nothing, etc. Whatever I could think of to annoy them. I tried. They had called maybe 3 days in a row before that, but they didn't after. The last time I called, they hung up on me. In Canada, we have a common scam where they pretend to be the Canada Revenue Agency. You owe us taxes. Please pay $10 000 with iTunes cards, etc, etc. Our country is bilingual, and all federal government services have to provide service in both English and French. They get angry and hang up pretty quickly when you keep saying "Je ne parle pas en anglais." Double quote. I also used to get those "Hello, we are from Microsoft Corporation and we have seen that you have a virus on your machine. I've only had Macs since the beginning of the 90s, so yeah." Not a very credible story, especially when it is delivered in a broken Indian English. I tried talking to them several times and a couple of times I even bitched at them for trying to scam people. Nothing helped. Until the last time, that is where I went all in sounding like I bought all their bullshit hook, line and sinker. They explained how compromised my computer was and how it exploded all my data. At this point I acted very concerned and asked them to please help me. At this point I got transferred to someone higher up in the food chain who said that they were delighted to help me with my virus problems, but first they needed my email address. I was happy to oblige but said I had a difficult address so I would have to spell it out to make sure they got it correctly. Sure. No problems, they said, and I started. Golf Echo Tango Foxtrot Uniform Charlie Kilo Echo Delta. It took them until the last letter before they caught on and simply said, "That's an interesting address. You have a god day." Never heard from them since. Capital D. Not me, but my mom did. Guy called our house and left a message saying he was from the IRS and that my sister never paid her taxes. My mom decided to call back the number they left. The guy picked up and told my mom that the police were going to be coming to our house in 30 minutes unless we talked to Sheriff Ryan and paid the taxes. She asked how to talk to the sheriff. The guy gave her the exact same number to call back. She said, "Why don't you just hand the phone to him?" The guy says he was unable to do that and we needed to call back. My mom just said, "Well, tell the cops that the door is unlocked and I just bought some Dunkin' Donuts." Double quote. The guy hung up. My favorite that I've seen was when a guy spent 30 minutes talking on the phone with a guy and then asked him, "Does your mother know what you do for a living?" I'm sorry? Does your mother know that you spend your time every day trying to scam innocent people? I'm sorry sir, I don't know what you're talking about. Yes you do. You've just wasted 30 minutes of both our time trying to take my money. Your mother would be ashamed of you. Click. Got the scam call about cancelling my social security number. Indian guy trying to scare me about my SSN being cancelled and all these crimes I'm accused of. Asked which crimes? He said drug dealing and money laundering. So I say, holy crap man. What do I do? He says he needs me to verify my SSN to him. So I asked him, "Hey, didn't you say you were with the Social Security Administration office?" He says yes, and that if I didn't do this fast the police would be on the way to arrest me. I told him, "You'll never take me alive. Get ready motherfuckers. I'm taking a ton of you with me." He couldn't hang up fast enough. Haven't been bothered since. This guy keeps calling me telling me there is a warrant out for my arrest and the cops are looking for me. Cool. I'm like, what town do I live in? What town do you live in? Guy gets pissed and hangs up. Shitty you not. He calls me back in a week. I'm like, OMG, it's you again. Did you figure out what town I live in yet? Says he f***ing hates me and hangs up. Never got another call. Not my story, but my mom did this with my dad. A telemarketer called and my dad kept saying no, but she wasn't listening. My mom then walks into the room and starts cursing my dad out, saying something along the lines of, "You said you wouldn't talk to her ever again, you." Insert whatever cursed insult you want. And the lady on the phone got so freaked she repeatedly said sorry then hung up. My dad and my mom laughed majorly hard about it afterwards. Once a telemarketer asked to talk to my mom who had died a couple months earlier, and me being high thought, hey, this will be funny, and I said sure, hang on mom. Phone. Then I said to the poor guy, no wait, she's dead, thanks for reminding me. He apologized and hung up really fast. I didn't really get any more phone calls after that. I'd like to point out that I had gotten a call from the same company before, so they knew she was dead. I somehow wound up on a call lost to be included on a telephone town hall for my state senator. I called 3 local offices demanding to be taken off the list. To no avail. Despite promises. I finally filed an FTC complaint with dates and times of incoming calls, as well as dates, times, and names of people I spoke to trying to get off the list. Apparently once you file an FTC complaint about a government official, they take it seriously. The campaign never called back. No. I didn't vote for him. My great aunt, she's a badass, just celebrated her 100th birthday, is the one who stopped the phone calls actually. She got a call from someone pretending to be the eyes, and all she said was, I'm 98 years old, I will haunt you when I die. Leave me alone and go to hell. And when I say I've never seen my mom so shocked, I mean it. Still not as cool as her accidentally pressing her life alert button and not picking up the phone, so when the ambulance arrived she fed them all some fresh cantaloupe. When I can be bothered, I like to waste their time. Microsoft scammer, I put on the little old lady act. Not understanding their instructions and insisting they help me with my problem of a broken integral coffee cup holder, disk drive. When they are at breaking point, I tell them that it says Linux on my comp. Is that the same as Microsoft? That finishes them off. Occasionally I get a call from legal companies. We call them ambulance chasers in the UK. Oh. If you've had an accident, they want to sue the other side for a big cut of the award. I describe how dreadful the accident was, blah blah, to get them excited. Then when they ask if they can sue on my behalf, I say unfortunately not, because I died in the accident. Lots of swear words and crashing down of phone follows, but they don't call back. If I'm not in the mood, I just tell them to FCK off and die and put down the phone. The thing that gets them is wasting their time. They are getting paid to make calls, so the longer you keep them on the better. One thing I like to do is start a rambling story that goes nowhere, like Grandpa Simpson does on The Simpsons. You know. Survey? Yes. I've taken some surveys in my time. Why? I even worked on one. Now I think it was in 2006. Or was it 07? No. It must have been 06, because that was the winter I crashed my book. God, I miss that old car. It was such a beautiful shade of green, like the jungle. Now, I've been to the jungle and boy do they have mosquitoes. Double quote. My co-worker received one of the "you have a virus on your computer" calls on his cell at work. I work for a company that deals heavily in IT. So I had my co-worker put the guy on speaker. We let the guy take us through the motions for several minutes. Once it was about to get invasive, wanted me to use a link to allow him into my computer. I revealed that he was on speaker and he called a company that deals in IT. Told him that he had several smart people laughing at him and his scam. Guy broke character and started dropping F-bombs. Oh yeah, Mothefka. You think I'm funny? FCK you Mothefka. Dot. He got worse the more we laughed. The more he cursed and went to, the more we laughed. It was great. Several years ago I had little to do at work because reasons, and so had a lot of time twiddling my thumbs. I was also getting security system scam calls multiple times a day. My usual tactics for messing with them wasn't working to get them to stop. So I decided to see how far I could get into the system. I gave them zip code. And they wanted a specific address. I didn't have that ready. So I failed that one. Next time I had one ready. But they wanted a past address for utility scan. Oops. After a couple failures on that, I gave them a previous address in Canada and said I just moved. They couldn't do a utility scan internationally. So I was in. Failed a couple more times on random things. But finally worked my way through to a field tech to schedule a dispatch. I gave them an address of an abandoned house with busted out windows. Overgrown yard. etc. That was near me. The dude got out there and was not happy with me. I didn't hear from that particular company again at that point. So, I usually answer telemarketers in Spanish. Because most of the time they don't think it's worth the trouble and they just hang up. Most of the time. It's also important to note that I'm not particularly good at Spanish and can speak about 10 words a minute on a good day. So, my phone rings. And it's the good old Hilton telling me I won whatever whenever despite the fact that I've never stayed at a Hilton. Anyway, I get some guy on the phone and do my whole and no gracious ordeal. And this man claps back with fluent Spanish at 100 miles per hour. I tried so hard to answer. To understand a single word that came out of that man's mouth. I couldn't back out now. All I could do was say no me le gusta and hang up. I genuinely felt bad. I almost cried afterwards lol. Props them for being able to scam people in multiple languages though. So my first job was as a telemarketer for a Sydney-based company. I was desperate for work at the time and managed to stick with it for about 10-11 months before I got something marginally better. We sold raffle tickets for charities. Except the charities got something like 5-10 cents to the dollar. Maybe less. So not exactly a morally righteous undertaking. I very quickly memorized the hotkey for removing someone from the dialing list, F9, which, incidentally, immediately hung up the call and used it at least a dozen times a day. Anyway, years later my parents complain about getting the same charity calling them up every few weeks to ask them to buy raffle tickets. I ask which charity. They say, charity I use to fundraise for's name. I tell them it's essentially a scam and to not give them the time of day. About a week after this conversation I'm having dinner at their house on a Saturday and, lo and behold, the phone rings. And they both groan. So I pick up the phone. Sure enough it's someone from the company I used to work for. Years later and they still hadn't even changed their intro script. I spend a few minutes chatting with the guy. Mention hey I used to work there. Comma. Start talking shop with him for a bit. Then say hey mate. Can you do me a real quick favor and hit F9 for me? Double quote. Never had a problem since. Made a negative Yelp review listing all the numbers circumventing my attempts to block them. Couldn't even ask to be removed from call list. They would hang up on me. They just would call from a new number. Claimed it was borderline harassment. The rep on Yelp said she would remove my number, give it a week. Left an update negative review because 3 weeks later I still get calls. That time she actually removed my number. I learning this trick years ago from a former telemarketer. When the call comes in, politely say you want to talk but act a little slow like you're old, say you're getting your glasses. Usually they think they have a mark. Then just put down the phone and go do something else. An hour later quietly just hang up without saying a word. My friend told me that telemarketers often hold on for 10-15 minutes because they think you'll buy. This wastes valuable time they could be calling others. Plus the supervisors wonder how they could be on for that long and not make a sale. If the tape is listened to they look stupid to the boss. Your number is deleted from call lists after a couple of times. It's weirdly the most effective tool I've used. My grandma was getting calls from a Jamaican claiming that she won $50,000 and a brand new 2019 Lincoln car. All she needed to do was go to Walgreens, buy a $200 gift card and give him the numbers off of it. Called her repeatedly. My aunt was out for lunch with GMA one day. Guy calls. Aunt takes the phone. Tells him her brother, my dad, just got out of prison and he's not afraid to go back. My dad has never been to prison. Hangs up. Grandma is at my house for a holiday. Her phone rings. It's him. Dad takes the phone and walks in the other room. Starts screaming at the guy. Saying he just got out of prison for killing someone and isn't afraid to go back. Guy starts arguing with him and all of a sudden my dad screams I will break your legs and piss down your throat and hangs up. Guy never called again. Got a call from the IRS telling me a warrant had been issued for my arrest. Hung up. Got a call the next day. And the next. For about a week solid. Then nothing. After a week. Same thing. One day. I talked through the message in my most stern, but not yelling, just stern, voice. I know this isn't the IRS. Impersonating a federal office like the IRS is a felony. Call me again and I will report this and any other number to the FCC and the FTC. Do not call me again. Once I finished talking, the recording stopped mid-spiel and hung up. Didn't get another call like this for 6 months now. About every 6 months I get one call. I give them the same spiel. And then nothing for another 6 months.